Hey everyone, and welcome to Screams After Midnight. I am Peter, that is Tim. We talk about horror movies on this show, and on this episode, we of course have been working through some franchises recently, and this is another sequel in one of these franchises. We have been making our way through the Phantasm franchise, and this is the third entry in that. It is Phantasm, you guessed it, 3.
Oh,
Lord of the Dead being the subtitle. So that is what we're going to talk about. We'll start spoiler free. We will warn you before we go into spoilers, and that's how this is going to go. So, yeah, Phantasm's a thing. So I've seen this before. I'm a bit loopy, Tim. If that wasn't clear, I'm a little bit loopy to start this episode off. We'll see how I feel by the end of it, but I'm a bit loopy to start with.
I'll ground you. Let me be your coffee.
I don't like coffee, Tim. Just for the record.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, I was curious getting into this one because I've seen this before, but it's been a long time, so I couldn't remember how it started or like connected with 2 and how it kind of propelled. There was only a few things I actually could remember if you'd asked me before we started this. I'm like, alright, I can remember like 3 kind of punk characters who kind of like attacked Reggie.
Mm-hmm.
I could have told you I remembered the actor for Mike changing again back to the original actor from the first one. So it's really jarring actually because as much as, okay, it's back to the same actor as the first one, he's meant to be the same age, right where we left off at the end of 2, so it's actually much more jarring. Even though the actor in 2 was the one who was the replacement, it still actually feels kind of like weird at the start of this one. But yeah, that was basically it. Like I remembered some kind of like dream sequences inside like someone's head at some point. But that was about it. Like most of the movie, I'd kind of forgotten. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, we'll get into. But that was all I really remembered about this one. So Tim, just in general, do you enjoy Phantasm 3?
I do actually, and it's kind of funny. I watched this somewhat recently, like I think maybe either last year or the year before. Which I mean, admittedly, that's not like super recent, but in terms of like, it's not like I last saw this when it first came out or whatever.
Oh yeah,
But,
I think it's been about a decade for me. I think I watched them all for the first time about 10 years ago, and 3 and 4 I never went back to.
They're definitely not as memorable as the first 2, and I remember this one being kind of bad, and as I was rewatching it, I think I kind of changed my mind a little bit. I think it's kind of good. It's definitely not as good as the first 2. It it has some serious flaws, but I think if you like the series and the characters, it's still kind of fun.
Yeah, I think, again, I went into this feeling like I probably didn't like it that much, and I actually was kind of surprised. Oh no, that's kind of mostly entertaining. I think what it suffers from, in comparison to the first 2, is there's a few things that just feel like they happen very randomly without any build-up, and they just kind of, out of nowhere, oh, yeah, that's a thing now. Oh shit, sure. And then, this is a bizarre complaint to have about a movie. And I actually had this recently about Civil War, the Marvel movie, right? But stay with me.
All right.
I feel like it doesn't feel like a fulfilling movie on its own. It feels like it's clearly intended to have another part after this, which is bizarre. I feel like it's ultra confident for, like, they're making these movies at so low budget that he's, Don Coscarelli's like confident he's getting a 4th one.
Yeah.
But I feel
you only
like
get one like every decade.
I know, this is like 1994, which was like 7-8 years after the last one, and that had been like almost a decade since the first one. And actually, 3 till 4 is the shortest gap, funnily enough, because 4 is like 1998, which isn't too long after this. But and then it was like another like nearly 20 years before before 5, which I've not seen before, so I'm looking forward to getting to that one.
That would be an interesting episode.
But yeah, I feel like the third act, it doesn't really feel like it's a conclusion. It just kind of like,
oh no
some stuff like characters just decide to leave the movie towards the end, and it kind of just has this very quick, oh, there's a cliffhanger thing, and that's it.
Yeah, there's like some kind of like, some characters kind of like say some cryptic stuff that lets you know like, okay, at least intending to, set up something. Who knows if we'll get another movie, but at least seems to they have some type of idea or want to do
Yeah.
something else.
I think watching this is better now. I think if I had seen this, if I was a fan of the first two movies and I saw this at the theater in 1994, I mean, not
Oh,
at the age I
sure.
was, I'd have been 5, but like
Yeah.
things being different. If I saw this years later, and it had been years since two, and I saw this, I think I'd be pissed. Then it kind of
Oh, yeah.
it's kind of like I'd compare it to what X-Files fans seem to go through because Chris Carter hates leaving anything feeling finished, where it's always just this cliffhanger for the next part. Where you're like, are you even going to get
Yeah.
a next part? But it kind of has that vibe to it. Where it's like he just assumes he's getting another movie, and he's like, oh, that's weird. But now in this context, where even the first time I saw it, there was already another movie to watch. Now, admittedly, I also know that 4 ends on a cliffhanger, which, and when I saw that, there was no next movie, and there was not even it almost seemed like there was a small chance we were going to get another movie. So again, I'll be curious to see 5 once once we get there. But so it has that weird feeling where you get to the end and it's like, oh, they gave me a quick cliffhanger, but it didn't feel like it ramped up for this big finale. It didn't feel like, I mean, cliffhanger is one thing, but the first two movies kind of have cliffhangers, but they're kind of those like climactic cliffhangers where you kind of feel like the movie ended and then they give you one last little scare to cliffhanger you.
Yeah.
Where, I don't think the end of the first Phantasm necessarily feels that there has to be a sequel. It's just more like, oh, got you. It's one of those horror movie endings. But it still feels like it built to a climax before that, as does 2. This one, it just kind of feels like we're in the middle chapter of a TV show episode, and then it gets
I can see that.
and it just cuts to the credits at the end because, come back next week. And so that'd be my biggest complaint. That and the couple of random things that pop up.
Sure.
My main criticisms. I mean, a couple of minor ones as well, but those are the main ones.
Yeah, I would say like on its own, this definitely isn't like a great movie. I think this is something that you're only really gonna appreciate if you're a fan of the series.
Oh yeah, this makes no sense if you've not seen the first two.
Yeah.
This is not even trying. I mean, there's a little recap at the start to remind you of the first two, but I feel like, okay, it's good for us if it's been a little while since you've seen the first two, just as a little refresher. I feel like if you've not seen those though, this will just feel like an info dump that won't actually explain anything.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. Which I mean, there's still some cool stuff to like. Like I think my favorite thing when watching this is I thought there was just some like cool, like kind of creepy imagery like stuff in here and some cool like effects. There's some stuff with like where you see like the tall man, he's kind of just like hanging out in this big giant room full of candles and stuff, and I was like, this kind of just looks cool and is kind of putting me in the mood for a Phantasm movie.
Oh yeah, it does some fun things with the balls again. There's a little bit more mythology that's built onto it, which I kind of liked, and
I would say if your favorite part of the movies is the balls, then this one might be the one for you. It's definitely very ball heavy.
Oh yeah, they definitely ramped up the ball usage in this one. Lots of balls. And Reggie even makes a testicle joke at one point about the balls. So, they were really digging deep into the balls. Here's a bizarre thing about this movie. There's a little kid in this.
Yep.
Mike, so again, we're still spoiler free, but Mike actually gets kidnapped by the tall man early on in the movie. And Reggie's sort of on his own. He's trying to find the tall man so he can get Mike back. That's kind of the main plot of the movie. And he ends up making some allies along the way. Much like 2, it's a road trip movie where he's kind of like driving a lot of the movie. And he meets up with there's a woman named Rocket. No, Rocky, sorry, not Rocket. Rocky.
Yeah.
Who's kind of this badass chick.
Could be short for Rocket, who knows?
It could be. But she likes to use nunchucks.
She's pretty badass.
She's badass. I do think the nunchucks, especially later on in the movie, start to feel really silly because she'll stand there and she'll do all the flips with the nunchuck. She's sort of going like that, and there's like a dead-eyed person coming towards her, and she's just doing this, and I'm like, come on now.
It feels very early 90s. I feel like nunchucks were kind of a 90s thing.
Well, turtles were a big thing at the time, and Michelangelo, people liked him, and so nunchucks were a big thing. But the other main ally he gets first is a kid named Tim. Now, you can fill me in how accurate I am here, but what was amusing me when he said he was Tim, and I thought of you, was that you were probably about this age when this came out.
Probably, yeah. I would have been 8 years old.
He's maybe just slightly older than that.
Yeah, I'd say he looks to be about. I'm horrible with ages, but if I had to guess, I'd say maybe like 9 or 10.
Yeah.
Maybe.
So I got a chuckle at that. I was thinking to myself, oh, this is just Tim playing himself in 1994. That's what I was getting.
I always do get a little bit whenever I hear my name. I do get a little bit like, oh, that's my name, and then yeah.
Well, it's not like we've got uncommon names, Tim. We kind of hear them in movies relatively frequently.
I have a name that I feel like is very. It's usually kids.
Oh yeah, you're always stuck in a well. It's always Timmy down the well.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. Yep. No.
It's not as bad as my. I have a friend Todd, and if he'll go on a long rant about this, but there's never a good Todd in movies. Like it's always like the jerk or the annoying guy or like the stupid boss that everyone hates.
Sure. Now you've said that, I can just when I think of the name Todd, the way I hear it in my head is, God, Todd.
Exactly.
That's what I hear in my head when you say Todd. And I don't know why. I don't know any Todds. So I have nothing against the Todd, but clearly...
I think it's just TV and movies. I think, and for something about it must just be a good like go-to like screw you name. But
apparently so. Now Peter's very versatile. I feel like I see kid Peters, I see adult Peters, I see heroic Peters, I see evil Peters. Yeah. I feel like I see everything in between.
I can see that, yeah.
Yeah, I don't feel like there's one particular type of character my name gets shoehorned into, which I guess is nice. I mean, why not?
I guess it's better than having a negative connotation.
Sure. So yeah, he's a little sort of badass. You kind of imagine that he's almost like the Don Coscarelli version of what you'd have in a Shane Black movie, where you have the kid sidekick who's a bit of a badass and like can take care of himself. He sets up traps. He shoots things repeatedly.
Yeah, I always forget like how much. I'm assuming that Don Coscarelli just maybe really likes traps because we had such like a big like trap stuff in the first and the second movie. I think we had some. If I remember him correctly, but
I think the first one more so. But yeah. He certainly likes characters making things, like because in the second movie they make the shotgun and all that. Which, by the way, for the record, Reggie threw that shotgun away, like in the middle of the third act of the last movie. He threw it away on the stairs, I think in the basement when he was fighting the druids, and he just like happens to have it right at the start of this movie, even though it takes place like it picks up in the car that they were in at the end of the second movie. So. Continuity bullshit is all I'm saying.
Well, I like that that's your complaint when like literally every movie has ended so far with characters dying and then we just start up.
Oh yeah,
like
I think because Reggie looked dead at the end of Reggie definitely died at the end of the second one, and
I think at the very least I think they want the audience to think he's dead at the like bare minimum. Yeah, they're making it seem like he's pretty dead.
He looked dead at the end of the second movie. He actually dies earlier on in the first movie, but they actually retcon it before the movie ends. He's alive before the movie ends at the end of the first one. I think this movie's the one that actually kind of accepted though that he's the main character. Yeah. Because I think last movie it was definitely sort of even between the two of them, plus the girl whose name I'm forgetting. But whereas here it's like, no, Mike gets kidnapped. It's Reggie who's the guy we're following. He's the lead now, which is weird when you go back to the first one and he's kind of the side character for Mike and Jodie. But that'd actually be one of my complaints as well. I mentioned the girl from the second movie. I imagine it would maybe had something to just do with the actress not coming back, but I do hate it in sequels where they just quickly give you a reason why they're not there. And in this case, and again, I don't think this is a spoiler because she's not a main part of the movie. She is killed in the opening scene. Like she's just there. You don't see her. Like they basically have it so that you never see any new footage of her, and then the car explodes, and then she's just dead. And I don't think either of the characters ever even acknowledges that they miss her or she's gone. It's really kind of weird. She's just kind of discarded. And I think it's a shame because she was such a prominent part. They really set her up in the second movie as the new main character.
Sure.
We followed her before the other characters met her. They set her up before they even got to her, and it was like a big deal. So it's a bit of a shame.
I think maybe if Mike was more of a main character in this, it would be more obvious, that her absence was there. But either way, it is a shitty thing to do.
Yeah. It's one of those things that always bugs me in movies where they just disregard someone like that right at the start.
Oh yeah.
And unfortunately, movies today are still guilty of it, relatively frequently, which is a shame. But hey ho.
Yeah. What do you prefer? Do you like it better when they just like if a character's not there and they just completely ignore it, or do you like it better when they give like a one flimsy line of dialogue excuse, be like, oh, by the way, where's like Tony or something, like, oh, he's on that business trip or something, you know what I mean? Like,
No, I hate that. I hate the awkward line. It feels forced. Because it just feels like they're making an excuse for the audience.
Yeah.
See, it's especially awkward in this case because the movie has to pick up in the scene that ended in the second one. It's not like there's some time, because it's easier when there's some time has passed or something like that, and you can do it that way. But honestly, there's no good answer. I mean, recast her basically is probably the best option.
Yeah.
I mean, as much as it's jarring and you notice it, it doesn't feel like you're like dancing, or you didn't change the plot to accommodate it. You just okay, we need to recast, then fair enough. But the flimsy excuse,
I'd say that's the best.
Yeah, the flimsy line of dialogue excuse I hate. This where they just disregard them. I mean, at least in some movies today, they'll still get the actor back for a couple of scenes to give them a send off, but it still feels forced. I mean, like, just think of Halloween Resurrection, where you have Jamie Lee Curtis for like 2 scenes, and it's like, oh god,
Yeah, it's true.
that still feels insulting. So, I don't know. I don't know what the solution is, Timmy, but that's the thing. So yeah, so Reggie meets up with this kid. He then meets up with Rocky. They go hunting for Mike, and that's the movie. So before we get into spoilers, I suppose, like we say, there's some good practical effects. I like the music again. Obviously, the main theme's fantastic, but I feel like again it kind of evolved.
Mm-hmm.
And right from the start, the one that's playing throughout the movie, it's it's a little bit brassier, and the actual kind of like it plays with it. It makes you feel just a little bit more epic than it was in the second one. And the second one was already more epic than the first movie. So I like that they use the main theme every time, but they keep kind of like just molding it a little and making it feel unique to that movie.
Yeah.
So no, I like that. So.
Yeah, if I did have another minor complaint, and I think we touched about it a little bit on the second one too, but yeah, I feel like the acting in this wasn't the best.
Oh yeah, well, I kind of love that Reggie has never actually been a great actor.
Yeah,
but he's very likable in his goofiness and not great acting. It's not a cringe-worthy bad acting. It's just like, yeah, you're clearly not someone who was originally an actor. You're someone who's just doing this because like, you were helping out a friend and you've just kind of stuck around. And it's
And I feel like for him it kind of works. Like he is like like he's kind of like an ex-hippie, so I kind of get that with his character. He kind of takes stuff as they come and like doesn't really overreact and stuff. He kind of seems like a mellow kind of dude. So I feel like it kind of works for him, but I feel like some of the new characters weren't the best. Like even like I liked Rocky. I thought she's again pretty badass, but I didn't think her acting was the best.
No,
and,
that's fair.
Yeah, and but a minor complaint though, because again, when you're watching these kind of movies and you're kind of in it for the mythology and kind of the weirdness and the the musical score and the balls and the tall man and stuff, so it's an easy thing to let go. But
do you know what
small gripe
got me? Actually, I was looking at Reggie, like the actor, because his name's Reggie as well. I'm not forgetting his name. His character name and his actor name is the same. He's like 73 this year.
Yeah.
Dude's getting old, and he was already like pushing 50 when they made this, obviously.
I saw him live at a Q&A maybe I think 2 years ago for Ravager, and I love him, but he like in real life he did not look that great, unfortunately. I think it's crazy how well like the movies do, because it definitely didn't look as bad in the movies, but you kind of see the age on him.
That's why I was thinking about it, because I was thinking, wait, Ravager, he must have been like 68 or something like that when they were shooting Ravager, and he's meant to be this action hero still with his quadruple barrel shotgun, and I'm like, man, like, how is he not using a walking stick? Like, I don't know, it was making me think about it, and how long that movie took to get made, that it was so after the fact. But yeah, so no, but there's fun things. So music's good, practical effects, some insane moments which are really cool, and you do typically like being around Reggie, and the kid's actually kind of likable. Like their kind of bonding's kind of fun. So no, so there's positive things. As much as we've had a lot of complaints about a lot of nitpicks, there's actually a lot of things to like about the movie as well.
Yeah.
So with that said, I think we'll get into spoilers. So full spoilers for Phantasm 3: Lord of the Dead from this point forth. Okay, so Mike gets kidnapped. We also, one of the major plot points of this movie is that Jodie's back. They got the actor who played Jodie back. Why? And I get obviously it's just because it's real life and it's been like 16 years since the first movie, but I don't understand why he's aged so much when he's been dead.
True, that's a good point.
Because he's like a ghost. I'm like, why does he look 16 years older? I mean, again, I know real life means that's just how it has to be. It's just this kind of like, it's one of those things where it takes me out of the movie because I'm like, he shouldn't have really aged. Like, if you made all these like close together, like I think was more intended, or like would have made more sense, this wouldn't be an issue. But whatever. So he's actually around. Like Mike sees him in his dreams, and then we actually find out, we get more mythology, and we find out that when the tall man makes the little druids, right, he squishes people down and they become druids, he actually takes their brain out, and their brain goes inside the balls. Like every ball has a brain inside. So Jodie's actually inside one of these balls, and he's able to fight whatever the tall man does to people, and he's like taking back control. So he's an ally ball. He's a ball that helps them on their journey. He gives them direction. And early on in the movie, he goes into his ball and he tries to like stall the tall man, and the ball like turns like a sort of charcoal kind of thing. It's as if it's been burned, but it still has some, like, you can still kind of talk to them a little bit and stuff. So they've actually got a ball the entire time with Jodie inside it. That's one of the plot points of this movie.
Yeah, so I feel like, I don't know, on the surface it sounds like this is kind of cheesy and stupid, but I actually kind of like dig it. Like, I'm like, you know what, this is so out there, and it's already such a weird series that I'm all for it. Like, yeah, like Jodie's a cool, friendly ball that's gonna help him. I do actually kind of like, there was I think he says like, yeah, they turn your body into a drone and your mind into a killer, which is like, oh, that's pretty cool. And then you see like the little brain inside the balls, and I'm like, this is it's a pretty interesting idea.
No, I like the ball mythology update. It adds more to it. It gives you a little bit more context for it.
I feel like most movies I wouldn't like want like too much to be explained. Like, you know, I feel like other movies you'd be like, oh, like I don't need to see the origin of, you know, Jason's machete or something. Like,
oh, of course.
But yeah, it is actually kind of a cool layer to it.
Well, I think that's because in most horror movies, like you say, Jason's machete, that's such a simple thing. I don't need an origin for that.
True, yeah.
Whereas with this, the first movie like set up this really cool, like, oh, there's this gateway to another dimension, and he's like making an army for a war in other universes or something like that. Like, oh, this is fascinating. So it does make sense to get a little bit more with each movie that just kind of fleshes it out and gives you some extra context. Because we actually see how Tall Man survived, because obviously he got brutally killed at the end of the second movie. We actually see a new Tall Man come out of the portal and throw the old one in, and I was like, oh, that was kind of cool. I like that they're actually explaining how he's okay and how he's still around. It's like, no, he is never ending. He will keep coming because they'll just keep beaming him back through. Whether he's actually the same entity or if it's just like an actual replacement, like another thing's taking that form to be in this world. I mean, you could debate which one it is. It doesn't really matter, but it's cool. I like it. Yeah. So
I'm sorry. And then, so I mean, what I kind of got from it, and I don't know, 'cause I forget if we learned more about it in the fourth one or whatever, but like, did you think that he was kind of trying to turn Mike into, like, I guess whatever he is, like another tall man?
Yeah, maybe, because because at the start of the movie, Reggie gets him away after the car thing because he threatens to like blow him and Mike up, and the tall man's like, I don't want him in pieces, boy. And so you get that he doesn't want to hurt him too much. And then later on, of course, at the end of the movie, when he has Mike captured again, he does something to him. And when Mike wakes up, he bleeds yellow, and he's got like some of the gold chrome inside his head.
Yeah, it's kind of like picking at his scalp, and you kind of see it
Yeah.
looks like there's a gold ball under there, which we didn't really mention in the spoiler-free section, but there's also a gold ball now.
Oh, there was in the last movie.
Oh, was there? I
Yeah,
don't even remember that.
the gold ball was interesting in the last one. Tim, it's been like a month, well, maybe 2 months since we watched it, but yeah. Because I was actually thinking all movie, oh, I had the gold one last time, so this time we get the eyeball. You know, the one the eyeball comes out and it looks
Oh,
around.
that's right. Yeah.
But then eventually the gold ball pops up again as well. So we got, but actually the gold ball in this one actually just goes through someone's head because it goes so fast. It leaves a hole in a head. It's mental. It's good stuff.
Oh, actually, that just completely unrelated, but that just reminded me. I completely forgot. One of Tim's, well, I don't know if you call it traps, but one of his weapons was a frisbee with razor blades on it that he's somehow really able to control.
Yeah, he's a very good
someone's head off.
good shot. How he even holds it to throw it is, a question in and of itself. But he actually slits one of the bad guys because early on, so Reggie's traveling to try and get Mike, and he gets kidnapped by these like two guys and a woman. Like, the woman kind of like seduces him, well, not seduces him, but like, just kind of tempts him to like stare. And then these two guys.
I don't think it takes a lot to seduce Reggie.
Oh, it doesn't. Reggie is a complete horny old man. It is surreal. Almost to an uncomfortable degree in this movie, the way he keeps trying to talk to Rocky and like, hey Rocky, we could. And it's funny sometimes because he's trying to arrange it so they're in the same room, and he's like begging the kid to like stay in the car so he's in a room with her. But then he just doesn't leave her alone, and you kind of cheer when she like outsmarts him and handcuffs him to the bed. Yeah. So he's like left there. So he gets his comeuppance. So it's not like uncomfortable or anything like that, but it's just he's like he won't let it go, and she's like, yeah, okay, we'll do it, and then handcuffed, like, yeah, good night. And he's like,
that was a good scene.
Damn it. And then he's like dreaming about her and stuff, but he's like, he's sort of he's caught his attention, and this trio kidnap him, and they've got a pink hearse because of course they do. And they end up at this house, and it's another town at the end of the second movie where the tall man's been through here, and everyone in the towns went. They've all died, and
population 0.
They come out of this house, and there's like traps, there's like puppets that are there to make you think there's like old people sitting in the front room, and the kid ends up coming out, shoots one of them, actually throws a hatchet at the woman's head. She gets
that
dead.
That was surprising.
Yeah, I was genuinely shocked in just how violent and brutal all this fighting was, where the kid just took out all three of these guys. It was kind of insane. But yeah, and Reggie tries to like give him to a little foster home. He tries to like, hey, you're taking care of all these kids, but he ends up like hiding in the trunk of the car, and he ends up sticking around. He ends up saving their ass though, because when we meet Rocky, her friend gets killed immediately by one of the balls, and Rocky actually tries to fight it off with some nunchucks, of course. But then Tim comes in and saves the day. So Tim sort of earns his worth, and Reggie finally lets him like drive his car. What I did think was weird, this is a complaint I've got actually, is so he meets Rocky and her friend. They're kind of like being mean to, well, not mean, but they're being kind of badass, like, oh, who are you, blah blah blah. And then the thing with the balls happen, her friend gets killed, and Rocky's like, damn, this is intense. And our characters leave. Reggie and Tim leave in the car, and Rocky doesn't come with them. We get a montage of them driving around for a little bit, and then they keep driving, and then they pull up, and Rocky's at the side of the road. And then they're like, hey, we're going to like, avenge, find a friend and like kill the bastard who took him. Like, do you want to come? And there's a bit of back and forth, and she's like, yeah, basically, yeah, let's go. And I'm like, why did you not just invite her, like, just from a movie writing perspective, why not just have her join them before? Because, first of all, we basically had them leave her in that one scene, drive for a little bit, and then find her and invite her, which just feels pointless in that sense. Yeah. It also raises a logistics question. How is she standing at the side of the road after miles of driving when they left her in the previous location? I don't understand. It makes no sense.
Yeah, that's pretty weird. I don't know. The only thing I can think of is if I don't know, for some reason, if they had shot scenes with her at the end and then shot the scenes where they leave her, and then at some point they realize like, oh, wait a minute, like wait, how is she still with us? And then they had to like shoot something real quick.
That'd
But
be
yeah, it doesn't still doesn't make sense.
that'd be especially stupid if that's what
Yeah.
happened. But they just, oh shit, we have to explain why she's with them again.
But, I agree that stood out to me as well. I was like,
Unless
yeah, it's kind of weird.
that would make sense though if maybe there was another reason she joined them later on and they shot another scene, but then for some reason they had to cut that scene and then they had to shoot a new version like that. That maybe what would make it more a bit more sense. As it is, it just kind of feels weird in the movie. I don't know. It's not a big complaint. It's just like, what's happening? Why is she suddenly at the side of the road when they just left her like 10 minutes ago? But yeah, it's not a big deal. So yeah, I think the movie does suffer some randomness because they're basically looking for Mike. Their whole point of this journey is to try and find Mike, and they're camping at the side of the road on their second night of just being on this trip, and basically Jody, because the ball's nearby, pops into Reggie's head. He sees him having this dream where he's having sex with Rocky, and then convinces him to come with him. It's a little bit mystical. They're out in this dry lake bed, and it's all very kind of like, oh, we're in his head, and it's all like, what does this all mean? It's like, come on, we're going to get Mike, and they actually get Mike inside Reggie's head.
Yeah. And
they actually get him out. They bring him, and Mike does appear in the real world. Like, he appears there when they wake up, and because the tall man's kind of sensing this, the tuning fork appears and the tall man's coming through. But Reggie does the thing it did at the end of the first movie where he stops the tuning fork and it cuts off the tall man's hands.
Yeah.
But the reason why I'm complaining about this is that there's no build up to this. It just suddenly happens where Jodie's inside Reggie's head. They go and get Mike, and they have Mike back 2/3 into the movie. Mm-hmm. That's just it. Okay, we've got him. Entire goal of the movie achieved.
Yeah, it feels kind of strange. Like, yeah, I think like you said, like stuff just kind of happens, and it feels kind of segmented. Like, you have the opening segment, then you have the segment in the town, and then you have this kind of road trip segment with Mike, and it doesn't really seem like there's a clear goal or objective in the movie, other than obviously the objective is always to get the tall man or defeat him or whatever. But
it's usually pretty fun. Like, most of the things are entertaining on their own, but honestly I get a kind of sense that I don't know if they wrote this like while they were shooting it and they didn't know where they were going sometimes. Like, it almost feels like they knew they had certain actors for like a month or like a few weeks here or there, and that could make sense. They just wrote that part of the movie and then they just kind of fit it all together later. Like, that feels cruel to suggest that, but it kind of has that weird feeling where each thing on it is just kind of on its own, and then like you have your big climax at the mausoleum or whatever at the end, because we always end a Phantasm movie in one of those places.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I do like this movie, but it definitely doesn't look like they're working with a lot of money on it. Oh, no.
I mean, the funny thing is I think some of the stuff in it does look really good. Like, some of the effects look good. They spent time and money on them. But yeah, some of the locations feel really random. Like, when Reggie first brings Mike, because Mike's actually in a coma after he's been saved at the start of the movie.
Oh, yeah. And we didn't even mention the nurse attacking him.
Yeah, the nurse gets possessed or whatever, and she's got this wacky contraption to kill him with. And we get this ridiculous scene with Reggie coming in, and he ends up swallowing a bunch of yellow blood, and the whole thing's kind of disgusting.
I think the one thing I actually am not really that crazy about in the movies is I never really liked the zombies. I don't think they ever looked that great, and I don't know. I love the tall man. I love the balls. I love the little druid looking people, but yeah, just when it's just a kind of a straight up zombie, I don't know. Sometimes it takes me out of it a little bit.
I'd actually say it's more of a deadite than a zombie, if that makes sense. Just because they kind of they still kind of laugh and talk and use weapons and stuff. So it reminds me more of a deadite from Evil Dead. Yeah. But so he escapes out of the thing. But when he takes him back to Reggie's place, the apartment he takes him back to, I know it sounds like a really weird thing because it's just supposed to be an apartment, but it felt really cheap. It felt like they got the cheapest place they could rent to shoot this scene.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because you literally have the tall man like walking, like his tuning fork appears in the hallway, and he just walks out onto this carpet, and it feels like really surreal. It feels like instead of like picking the place that really fit the scene and like, oh, this we could give like a good location, it's like, no, this is the place we could get. This is the place we could afford.
Yeah. I definitely get that.
Yeah, so that stuck out. It doesn't always feel that. I mean, obviously they're on the road a lot of the time, and we go to some various places throughout the movie, but that one stuck out to me in particular. You mentioned zombies. The three people that Tim helps kill early on, they actually pop back up as zombies a few times throughout the journey. Basically, every time it's like, oh, we need an action scene, it's been not too long, they show up and they have a bit of a fight with them. The car chase is pretty cool when they're both in the cars, and they end up like, you know, shooting one of them in the face with the shotgun and all sorts. Like, so there's some fun stuff there. But yeah, so you have the last like 15-20 minutes in this monastery, or not monastery, sorry, mausoleum, and you have them all fighting the various zombies, whilst the tall man's there, the balls are there. Mike's actually voluntarily, because they're actually staying in this place, they're not even trying to find them at this point, they decide to stay here, because they think it's a good place to crash for some reason. And Mike decides to put Jodie's ball on his head so that he can talk to Jodie in his head, which of course he wakes up and the tall man's there, and that's when the procedure happens, and he sees there's like thousands of balls in this room. There's like, you know, all these silver balls. So the big ending is that Rocky actually leaves. She just decides to leave.
Yeah.
And
I'm out of here.
And I almost felt like Coscarelli wanted another movie, but he just assumed that he couldn't get her back. Like he knew, oh, Reggie's like my best friend. I can get Reggie back. I'll get Mike back and the tall man, because we're good friends at this point. We've done 3 of these movies. But Rocky's this guest star who came in and did one movie, so he's like, I'll just write her out at the end of this one, just so I don't have to worry about bringing her back. That's what it felt like. Because she literally just gets in a car and says, yeah, this whole demon killing's just not for me. I'm going to leave.
It sucks because she was good at it.
But that is basically why she leaves. That's the scene. She just says, yeah, this isn't for me. I'm going to leave. And yeah.
Which, to be fair though, that is kind of interesting. Like, it's not often that you see a hero just be like, nah, I'm out of here.
It's weird for a movie script for the third act. Like, it's a funny joke maybe earlier on in the movie. I don't know if it works as how a character leaves at the end, but yeah, that's fair. At least in this context, where there's like another cliffhanger, like immediately, where Reggie and Tim come back in. Mike's walked off. Mike came out. He's been all kind of transformed. He's got the gold eyes, and he just kind of walks off into the night. And Reggie's going to go after him, and Jodie like appears again. Force ghost Jodie appears and is like, no, Reggie, it's easy to see, but understanding that takes time. Let him go. And then he transforms into a ball and leaves. And Reggie's just standing there like, what the hell? And I agree with Reggie. What the hell? Indeed. What does this mean? And that's the last time you see Mike in the movie. Like, this is what I mean by saying it doesn't have a climax. It just kind of ends.
Yeah.
Because that just ends there, and then Reggie comes back inside and it gets attacked by all the balls, and then we basically do a kind of remake almost at the end of the first movie, where a druid comes out from behind and grabs Tim.
Yeah, like Tim comes back out and he takes out his gun, like I'm assuming he's gonna try to take out the balls, but they are like
and it's a 6-shooter, by the way. And there's like 40 balls holding Reggie up against the corner of the room. Like they sort of got him pinned up against the wall, and he pulls out his little 6-shooter like he's going to shoot every single one of them.
And then right before he can do so, again, kind of mirroring like you said, the first movie and stuff. The tall man comes out. He says, what does he say? It's never over.
Yeah, because Reggie says, just run, Tim, it's over. And the tall man comes out and goes like, it's never over. And then, Druid grabs him, and then cut to black, titles, and I'm like, okay, that was the end.
I love the tall man stuff. I love it. Always feels like he's speaking like directly to the audience.
Oh yeah, kind of, yeah. Either that, or he'll end his sentence in boy, and it'll just be this, use your head, boy. He says that at one point when he's talking to Mike. That's good stuff. No, so I feel like I've been really critical, and I actually do enjoy the movie. I think all the things on their own are really fun. I enjoy Reggie, I enjoy the tall man, I enjoy all the stuff with the balls, the practical effects, the music. Like, it's a pretty entertaining 90 minutes. It's just, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Some things are really random, and it doesn't really feel like it has a big like build to an ending where it feels like a satisfying movie on its own. Because I think two still felt like that. Two still felt like it had a conclusion. Whereas this one, it's like to be continued, but not even like, because even like Back to the Future Part 2, for example, right? It has a to be continued, but it doesn't feel like you didn't get a complete movie when you went to see it. You know, it still feel like it built to a climax. It still feel like it had a big ending, but there's more to the story still. Like a good chapter in a book. Even when you're reading a book, each chapter should still have like a sort of rise, and then like, oh, that's a cliffhanger for the next chapter.
Well, yeah, I feel like Empire Strikes Back would be like the kind of quintessential example of that. Like, yeah, it's definitely its own movie, but when it ends, you know that all right, there's gonna be another one. I know what the characters have to do. Like, I don't know how they're gonna get there or how they're gonna do it, but you know what the goal is.
Absolutely, yeah.
Like with this, you get the feeling that all right, it seems like there's gonna be more, but I don't know exactly how or like what's going to happen with any of these characters.
Yeah. But like I say, it's entertaining. And if you're a fan of the characters and generally what happens in the movies, I think 3's still like fun time. So I can't fault it too much, even though I can fault it for a lot of things.
Yeah, it's weird. I was actually kind of surprised at how much I liked it. Kind of just considering all the nitpicks and the fact that it's not one that you hear a lot about. Like obviously, the first one, you hear a lot about, and then I hear people talk about the second one, and then after that, it kind of drops off, and I don't really hear as many people being like, oh, like I love this one, or oh, like the third one's my favorite, or that kind of thing. But I think what it boils down to is if you like the series, these characters, this is just another installment with it's not as well made, it's maybe not as epic or as well told, but it's kind of comfortable. Like you kind of fall back in and get to see the stuff that you like.
Yep, there you go. That's Phantasm 3, Lord of the Dead. So I guess we'll rate the movie, Tim, if you're ready for that.
Yeah, I think a little higher than I expected, but I still can't go like too super high. So I think I'm gonna give it like a 6.5. It's fun, it's enjoyable, but not like the best made.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty fair score, and I'm going to echo that and also say 6.5. I don't think it's good, because I think on the chart of what each number means, I think like 7 means good, 8 means great, 9 means amazing, 10's like one of your favourites, 6 is above average, or not above average, but good. Yeah. Like it's well, 7 is good, but 6 is like it's above mediocre, but it's not high enough to be considered good. But you might get enjoyment out of it. I feel like that's where. Yeah. So I think 6.5 is kind of where this one sits. If you're a fan of the series, I think if you're not a fan of the series, this will probably be a complete mess to you, and you won't get anything out of it. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I thought you were going to say something to me, but okay.
I was trying to think of an example, like something like a. I don't know, like maybe like a Saw movie or something like that. We don't like those franchises, so the ones that are worse off than others, we'll probably be extra hard on and hate extra more. But to the person that is a fan of that series, to them it's like, oh, this is just another enjoyable installment or whatever.
Yeah, no, I think that's apt. I guess. Yeah, I guess that's us. I was getting up the vote for the Patreon this month because we're not announced it on a show yet. So I thought I was just getting that prepared. I didn't have it ready, and I couldn't remember them off the top of my head because, like I say, I'm loopy, folks. In case you hadn't noticed. So no, but that is Phantasm 3, Lord of the Dead. So we'll be back next time with not next time, but we'll be back with 4 at some point in the next month or two. I'm trying to. I didn't want to do sequel after sequel because we're working through these franchises. I didn't want to just rotate through lots of sequels, so I'm intentionally trying to schedule so that it's never 2 sequels in a row.
Gotcha.
Whether it's a new movie in between or it's just another film in between. So So next week won't be a sequel to something, just to keep things fresh, keep things a bit, interesting. So we're not just doing another 3 or another 4 next time.
Cool.
Not counting the new Insidious, which obviously is a 4, but that's a new release, so I'm not counting that in that list of things. But yeah, so I will mention the Patreon vote. Obviously, every month we have a vote on patreon.com for our $5 patrons. Over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV, there'll be a link in the description. But so obviously last month we had a vote, and the winner said that Lake Placid, because it was all alligator and crocodiles. Lake Placid won, so we're doing that sometime this month as a bonus episode. The vote that's on right now for next month for February's movie is all vampire romance movies, because of course it's Valentine's Day next month, and we had to pick something that was suitable. So the 4 options are for our patrons to vote on are Only Lovers Left Alive, A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night, The Hunger, and Vampire's Kiss. And you can tell Tim didn't know what those options were before I said them right there.
No.
And he could have known, he just didn't bother checking. He just lets me pick. I could sneak any old shit. Tim, I want you to know how lucky you were, because I very nearly put in Twilight as a joke option. But after they voted for Waterworld on the Influx vote last month, I'm like, you know what, they're not getting that chance again. So I put in Vampire's Kiss instead, because I thought that'd make you happy. So.
Well, I'm all right. As long if we have to do a crappy movie, at least you have to sit through it too. So that gives me a little bit of pleasure.
But yeah, so that's the vote for next month. But otherwise, that is us. So of course, remember the Crypt thing. The Crypt, of course, patrons can submit movies to the Crypt list, which every so often we'll pick something from. That's also the $5 tier on Patreon. And there's a link to that in the description as well. For the public sort of list, you can see what the list is. You have to be a patron to submit something, but anyone can see the list as it is. So there's a link to that in the description as well. So there you go. That has been this episode of Streams After Midnight, episode 2 of 2018, if my counting is correct. So thank you very much for watching and listening. We always appreciate it. Like, subscribe, all the usual stuff. Comment, let us know what you think of Phantasm 3 if you've seen it in the comments and whatnot. But otherwise, that is us. So thank you once again for watching. We always appreciate it. Love you loads. Keep watching scary movies, and we'll see you next time.